A Day with Wilbur Robinson is an obscure 1990s children's book. It's a short but sweet little book about a weird family. That's about it. Disney got the rights to the book and decided to make a film adaptation. And yes, this is the best image of the cover I could find. Meet the Robinsons came at a very transitional period in Disney animation. Disney's former CEO, Michael Eisner, was sacked from the company. Yeah, he was kicked out of office. His run started off pretty great, beginning with the Disney Renaissance and even a lot of other film hits. But by the end of his tenure in the early 2000s, there's a lot of bad decision-making. A lot of that has to do with the Disney parks rather than the film division, but his film decisions were bad, especially his rough relationship with Pixar, which has always been a very tough position, especially since they're making a lot of money for the company, but he didn't respect them at all, which caused Roy Disney, who is the nephew of Walt Disney and son of Roy Disney, so he's a junior, technically speaking, whatever. He gathered a bunch of people to say, hey, you're getting kicked out because you do not respect Disney at all. And he's like, fuck you guys, I'm Lord Farquaad. He is Lord Farquaad, look it up. And he got kicked out. Hey, this was the guy who saw the original Chicken Little movie about coming over fears and emotional responses, and said, fuck that, who wants this movie that has emotion and shit? Fuck that, this movie is a girl? Fuck that, we want a main male character who talks about pee jokes. Hilarious. So, say at the least, I am not sad to see this guy go. He was replaced by Bob Iger, who, oddly enough, seems to have the same trajectory as Michael Eisner. He started off and everyone loved his new direction he was going in, and then in recent years, he's like, But we'll get to his failures later down the Disney marathon. But he was smart on one thing. He realized that it was stupid for Disney to disregard Pixar so badly as they did. So he outright bought the company for a shit ton of money, and so they would forever be part of the Disney brand without having to worry about them going away. And that was great, because the head of Pixar, John Lasseter, became the head of Disney Animation, which is a good thing, because I like this guy's work. I know he has some problematic elements of him, but I give it a pass, really. Sorry. It's one of those things where I just don't really get into the cancellation of this one person in particular, since it's kind of ridiculous. But yeah, everyone else is a fucking asshole. This guy, he's a little weird and eccentric, but his animation cred, other than Cars 2, is impeccable. This guy basically was the co-founder of Pixar's animation, all the main animation stuff. Created Toy Story. I mean, come on. Toy Story, the best thing ever. Hopefully don't ruin that with a fourth movie. Oh wait, they did. I wasn't able to find that much information about the original version of the film. However, it turns out that 60% of the original film was scrapped when John Lasseter was added to the film's catalog. He's added a lot of story elements that they should add to make the film work better. The villain of the film was very weak, apparently, in the early drafts, supposedly being a threatening villain, but he wasn't very threatening or scary. So they added a new sidekick character who would actually be technically the main villain, and have the main villain actually be more comedic in tone. This ended up actually working very well in the film, so I'm glad they made that change. So far, it seemed like there was a win-win situation where all the decisions made for the film were great. However, since the film was halfway through development, there is still some issues with the film. And apparently the ending of the film was also changed, which I'm guessing was a good thing, since I think the ending of the film was really good, so yeah. Though, oddly enough, not a lot of issues. For me, this film is right up there with Treasure Planet in the 2000s as one of the most underrated Disney films ever made. Though before I talk about why I like this film, there's a couple little minor complaints I have, so I might as well mention them. It's safe to say that Disney had a rough transition into 3D. People say that about Sonic, but Disney really had a rough transition into 3D. Mostly since their first 3 CGI films did not have that cultural impact as their later films would. Also because the animation of their CGI films early on weren't that great. This film features pretty much mostly human characters, which are always harder to animate in CGI than any other thing. Usually on side characters like these two guys here. And for the most part, I think the character designs of the humans are fine, however, sometimes the models look a little janky. They look like rejects from Jimmy Neutron. It's kind of shocking how bad these background characters look in this film. Like, the main characters look perfectly fine, but a lot of the background or side characters that barely appear in the movie just don't look very good. I mean, I can't blame them, especially for a new studio making CGI films. This film is actually pretty ambitious for what it tries to do with CGI. Seeing how there's a bunch of human characters featured in this film, as well as a lot of unique backgrounds and sci-fi visuals. It's not an easy film to animate in CGI, so I give them amends for animating it. But however, it just makes me wish they were still doing animation in 2D with a little bit of CGI for hybrid animation that had the best of both worlds, but that's just me. I will forever like 2D animation a lot, even though I do have a soft spot for 3D since Pixar is my favorite animation studio. The only other problem I have with this film is that there's way too many side characters. It's strange because the rest of the movie is pretty good, but during this one section we're introduced to a bunch of family members. and I don't get the connection to them between the rest of the family, even though they do have a very minor connection, and what their purpose or even joke is most of the time. Most of the film is written pretty funny, but then you got this guy who has a wife that's a hand puppet, and his daughter sounds like a man, despite the fact that nothing about her would imply the fact that she sounds like that. Is she transgender? Is Disney ahead of its time? I don't get this joke. I don't get it. It's weird because it's really just this one section of the film where they introduce these new family members who aren't funny or interesting. I mean, like, at least a third of the characters work, but a lot of these side characters feel pretty unnecessary, and since their jokes aren't funny, I just don't really care for them, and I really feel like they're a little too forced for me. Like, there's a fat guy who wants toast, and that's his character. I feel like there's a little bit too much, and I feel like it takes away from more of the main characters. I feel like it could have got a little bit more screen time. Like the mom character, named Franny, who I like quite a lot, who's basically the MILF of this film. It's like, it's very nice similarity you have this film has with Treasure Planet. They both have underrated MILF moms. Like, come on, people. I wish this character had more screen time than, I guess, the grandma dancing in the kitchen. And the voice actor also voiced Joan of Arc in Clone High, so that's another plus for this character in my book. But hey, at least the main characters are good. It doesn't really matter if the side characters who don't have that much screen time aren't that great. So yeah, the fact that at least 6 of the main characters are good, and I wish I saw more development time, isn't a bad problem to have. And yeah, that's pretty much all the problems I have with Meet the Robinsons. I should probably discuss what the story of this film even is, since you guys might be confused what the fuck I'm talking about. If you haven't seen the movie, that is. The movie is about time travel. Basically, this kid who's an orphan goes to the future and meets his other kid's family who brought him there from the past. And there's this evil guy wearing a bowler hat who wants to, for some reason, mess with the one kid. We don't know why. Well, we do, but that's spoiler territory, and I haven't spoiled anything of this film, but there is some major spoilers in this film that are kind of obvious, but maybe not to a little kid, so yeah. Anyway, I will be spoiling the rest of the movie for anyone who hasn't seen it, so if you don't want any spoilers, then I recommend turning off the video right now. So it turns out that this family he meets is actually his family in the future, and he wants to stay with them, but since he's already part of the family as an adult, he can't be with them, so he cries like a little bitch. Well, not really, he doesn't cry like a little bitch. And the villain was his old roommate who became bitter because he lost one baseball game as a kid. It's really ridiculous, but it works out pretty well. The movie has this unique theme of that they hammer in on you. You might not like that fact, but they've hammered in the theme of keep moving forward, basically not giving up. So yeah, the main villain is pretty funny since he's a guy who just can't let go of one little thing that happened to him in the past, and basically he becomes a broken guy. It's kind of sad, but they make it really work with how funny he is. Also, the hat he works with is actually the true mastermind because it's actually a failed invention of the kid from the future. Also, the hat wants to enslave humanity, mostly just to get revenge, but it's pretty easily defeated since, he created the hat, so he just says, I'm not going to create you, and it goes away. I've never seen a more evil hat in my whole entire life. Yeah, this film is very bizarre when he comes down. It's a time travel movie where basically an evil bald guy, I guess he's not bald, he has a little bit of hair, but he's losing his, wants to ruin the life of a little kid because he was slighted at a baseball game one time. The film is bizarre, but it's very fast-paced, so the pacing works really well. It's got a lot of fast jokes, but when it needs to slow down for emotional bit, it works. I like the main character of Lewis, who is a pretty interesting guy because he's an orphan who feels like he's rejected by humanity just because he tries to fit in with science, but that doesn't end up working that well, especially when you got shitty orphan parent like these Jimmy Neutron rejects here. Honestly, this is one of those films you have to watch because me describing it just not going to help you out very much. When I say a film is funny, you kind of have to watch it for yourself because me explaining a joke is just not going to be very funny. You have to see the joke for yourself.
Goo, what's up? Cool binder.
Hey Goo, wanna come over to my house today?
They all hated me.
That's one of my favorite jokes. I can relate to that. Me and my social anxiety-ridden ass. So, do I recommend this film? Yeah, if you want a fast-paced comedy that's full of lighthearted adventure as well as time travel plots, which I'm a big fan of, and are a big fan of Disney's Tomorrowland, or I guess it's called Todayland in this film. I'm talking about Tomorrowland, the area of the Disney parks, not the Tomorrowland movie. Todayland. This is a film for you. I highly recommend it. Seriously, Treasure Planet and Meet the Robinsons, highly underrated. I recommend watching. And I'm glad that this film has gained a cult following, it seems. And a lot of people have discussed its themes and uniqueness. And you know what? I really like the film's ending. I know this kid gets a really good deal in his life compared to everyone else, even though his life starts off pretty shitty. But hey, he kept moving forward. Hopefully we can keep moving forward in these next 4 fucking years. See you guys in the rankings. For not a very long time, Disney Toon Studios is going to make a sequel to this film because they're going to make a sequel to literally every Disney film that came out. The sequel would have been subtitled The First Date, assuming that it would take place immediately after the beginning of the film into the future timeline, which is kind of an interesting concept. actually seeing the two main parents actually meet and get together would actually have been an interesting concept to me, but maybe it's not really that where it's in the film kind of self-enclosed, so it's not really necessary. But it's definitely one of the more interesting concepts that Disney Toon sequel ever had. Oh well. The only other media that Meet the Robinsons had was a tie-in video game. I never played this video game, however, a lot of you might have had, because this game was released on a crap ton of consoles, like the Xbox 360, PS2, Wii, and GameCube. And yes, it's the first time we've seen a Disney game be released on the Xbox. It took them quite a while. I don't know why they hate the Xbox so much, but hey, here you go. The most interesting thing about the game, other than that it actually looks like it's a fun game to play, is that the story of the game is not at all the same as the movie. In fact, it takes place before the film. Well, the future before the film, where you're basically playing as the son, Wilbur Robinson, who has to go find the bowler hat guy where he is in time, and basically all the other shenanigans that comes with that. Not exactly what you would expect from the game, but hey, it looks interesting. And of course, there's other platforms it's released on, like the GBA in 2006. Yeah, I don't know who really was buying GBA games in 2006, but apparently enough people for them to release this game. Just for what I see, this does not look very good, so we'll just move on. To Meet the Robinsons on the DS, which seems like a remake version of the console version. Honestly, I'm a little bit impressed for what I see. The DS sometimes has pretty shitty games on it, tie-in games in particular, but it doesn't look too bad. I haven't played it, so I won't know, but if any of you guys have played any of the Meet the Robinsons games, you can let me know in the comment section down below if they're good. Maybe one of these days I'll play them. Maybe one of these days I'll do a Disney game marathon where I play a lot of tie-in games. Probably not, but we will see. Yeah, despite some of the flaws it has, overall Meet the Robinsons is a funny, well-put-together, and well-written film that's very charming and heartwarming, so I give it an A tier, near the bottom, but yeah, a solid 9, highly recommend, underrated film, and definitely one that I will continue to rewatch, because I find it very entertaining. The villain rank, and of course there's a train going by, anyway, ignore that. I got the two villains, the Bowler Hat, which is actually named Doris, or D-O-R 1-5, yeah, his official name, and the Bowler Hat guy, who I put high on the list because I think they both do an excellent job. However, Doris is just a Bowler Hat sidekick. That's the main villain, but her motivations isn't that interesting. But as a little accessory to the other guy, she works well. The Bowler Hat guy, whose real name is Goob, is a really funny, entertaining villain who actually ends up being kind of sad and tragic in a way that they execute very well. They could have easily fucked it up, either have him not be funny or have the tragedy of the character not work, but it ends up working both incredibly well, enough for him to get into the A tier. And even in the end, he's not even really a villain per se. It's just a good, but he's still a villain enough to be on this list. But it's just considered a well-written character. Hey, it isn't another thing this film has in common with the Treasure Planet is that they both have a villain who, by the end of the film, it's kind of hard to consider a villain because they're just kind of lost and have to change their ways. But I like that concept. Sue me. Don't sue me. I don't have a lot of money. Meet the Robinsons actually has quite a few songs in the movie, more than I thought actually. But yeah, technically all the songs that are in the film are original, and so I'm counting them. That's good. I prefer original songs in my Disney movies, so that's just me. The only exception I have to that rule is Lilo and Stitch, because it does a really good job implementing the Elvis songs in the soundtrack. But anyway, I digress. The film has a very 2000s soundtrack, which I'm a big fan of. I like that alternate rock 2000 sound. However, some of the songs aren't executed as well as I would like, so this range of the songs are kind of all over the place. For example, in E tier, we have the bottom one, Kids of the Future, which is a weird recover of Kids in America, which is not an original Disney song. However, the lyrics are changed, and it's sung by a Disney band, the Jonas Brothers, who I don't like. I don't like any of the Disney Channel shit. I think it's all garbage. The cartoons are good, but the live-action shows, I never got into them. Nickelodeon did live-action shows way better than Disney. That's all I can say. So don't kill me. But yeah, I don't like the Jonas Brothers. I think they suck. And their coverage is shit. I was like, why am I listening to this? Anyway, the other song is an Art Correct song, I believe, called the Motion Waltz Emotional Connection. The song I was actually listening to, because when I do this, I listen to songs before I rank them. I watch the movie, then I listen to them again. So okay, we're gonna put this song. I was like, oh, that was over. I didn't even realize I was listening to anything. That's how bad that was. Very forgettable, but not awful. Anyway, we're going to the D tier, which is a D tier. I realize I actually like the songs on it, but usually I don't say that about the D tier songs. But whatever. Maybe I'll like this list again. I didn't really listen to everything. Anyway, who cares? Give Me the Simple Life. It's one of the jazz numbers, and it's nowhere near as good as the other one, even though they're both in the same tier. But hey, it's the Frogs. They're jazz. They have little jazz songs. This one is just Well, Where's Your Heart At? It's fine. Both of them are okay. Nothing spectacular. The one is much better than the other one, even though they're both in the same tier. And there's another credit song. The Future Has Arrived. Actually, it's not a credit song. It's actually in the movie itself. And this one I thought I was going to like, but I forgot that was even in the movie. And the full version, I was just like, this is kind of generic, which sucks because it's sung by the All American Rejects, who I actually am quite partial to liking, but that's just me. But yeah, their cover, not cover, but their song isn't very good. It's kind of Oh well. Then in C tier, we got Another Believer, which is the first song. It's not about, like, relationship, in case you're wondering. It's just about believing in oneself, and I like it a lot in the montage. Though most of the song, it does not really work that well enough to be higher, but the beginning part of the song works really well. Just the rest of the song kind of like, it wanders off a little bit. It works well because it's with a montage in the movie, not just some random cred song or whatever. And then we go past B tier, past A tier, and yeah, there's an S tier song in this movie. I bet you didn't know that. But yeah, the song Little Wonders, which actually has the lyrics Let It Go, that's the first thing, which is really funny. And yeah, even though I always think the song is called Small Hours, because that's what the guy says more than Little Wonders, but whatever. It's one of those very 2000 songs, but it works well with the ending of the film. It makes the end, it goes with the ending montage, which is, like I said, the ending's really good in this film. And it also ties in that Walt Disney quote, is where they got the main theme of the movie from. Yeah, it's a Walt Disney quote. Bet you didn't know that. And yeah, it's just like a really nice, heartwarming ending, and I like it quite a bit. It just makes me feel like really good inside. So I had to give it an S tier, even though I don't think it's as good as the other S tier songs, so it's at the bottom. But yeah, that was Meet the Robinsons, a surprisingly underrated gem that Disney fans need to go watch. It's very unique, and honestly, there's a lot of those Tomorrowland aspects I like a lot. Thank you for watching, and next time we're dealing with the last film in the post-Renaissance / experimental age, and that film is Bolt. I'll see you then, or I'll bolt into you then. That was a bad pun, I'm sorry.